Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Dream Deals from Castle Howard in Yorkshire. Now this week we're looking at a manufacturer that is responsible for the world's longest running sports car. From humble beginnings using a Volkswagen Beetle as a base to being one of the world's favourite sports car manufacturers, Porsche have gone from strength to strength. And this weekend we're celebrating the mark with Porsche in the Park. Porsche in the Park is Europe's biggest get-together of Porsches and has been organised by John Hawkins. Held in the grounds of Castle Howard, the event is designed to give like-minded enthusiasts the chance to talk all things Porsche, whilst enjoying the British summer weather, of course. Here's John to tell us a bit more about it.
Hi, my name is John Hawkins. I'm the Managing Director of Specialist Cars of Malton. We're one of the UK's largest independent Porsche specialists. Porsche in the Park has been the largest independent gathering of Porsche motor cars in the UK for the last 3 years now. This is our 4th attempt at doing it. Hopefully we're getting it a bit better every year. This weekend we should get in excess of 2,500 Porsches. There's people coming from all over Europe to see us. Porsches are very special cars. They've got a soul about them. If you drive, we get so many people buying cars, just normal cars. You know, they drive like a Jaguar or a BMW or something like that, which isn't in the same league. The sound of them just makes the hairs on the back of your neck. We get so many people come and you say to them, you know, when did you think about buying a Porsche? And they say, well, you know, I lived next to this chap when I was 6 and the guy moved in next door. He had this car. Every time he started it up on a morning, he said, it just gave me that sound, so I had to buy one. So people fulfill their dreams and buy them. But there is nothing like them. The older cars, the 911s, when you're driving them, the actual response you get, the cars actually talk to you as you're driving along. You get feedback from the steering, through the floor, just the sound, everything about them, brilliant. Favourite Porsche of all time, I'm quite into the last of the air-cooled cars. The water-cooled cars have softened a bit, just to make them a bit more user-friendly for everyone else, but the air-cooled ones are really, really special cars. I've got a 96 GT2, which is air-cooled, 550 horsepower. There's only 12 of those, that's fantastic to drive. I've got a factory rough flat nose, 500 horsepower. I've had that for about 6 years. Every time you drive that, it makes you smile. So it's good fun, very good.
Cheers, John, and we'll be sure to check that car out later in the show. For now, though, let's look at the history of Porsche. The first car to roll out with the Porsche badge was the 356 in 1948. Built at the company's factory in Canton, Austria, after moving from Stuttgart during the war, the 356 fulfilled Professor Ferdinand Porsche's brief to build a sports car I like myself. And he clearly wasn't the only one, because we're here today with thousands of other enthusiasts to celebrate a marque that's become known the world over for producing some of the world's safest, fastest and most exciting sports cars. But it wasn't always this way. Porsche's origins were actually very humble. They started out by making modifications to the VW Beetle, developed by Ferdinand Porsche's father. In 1950, production returned to the Stuttgart Zuffenhausen plant, and Porsche were amongst the first to carry out comprehensive safety tests, although they were nothing like today's standards, using an almost empty autobahn to test the cars at high speed. But Porsche soon realised that the open public roads weren't a great place for high-speed tests, so in 1961 building started on their development division. Now it's admirable to think that a company like Porsche that makes some of the world's most exotic sports cars still take their driver safety and environmental concerns seriously too. In 1964, Porsche's most famous car and the world's longest running sports car was launched. The 911 was first available with a 6-cylinder Boxster engine, giving 130 brake horsepower, and is of course air-cooled, the way it would remain until 1997. In 1974, Porsche had introduced the 930 Turbo, and it was that car that would form the basis for the 1976 racing programme. This 935 1986 model was derived from the 930, and the prototype had the same traditional Porsche body shell, but a change in racing regulations meant that they could alter the front end, and the now legendary slant nose was born. The 924 was originally designed by Porsche for Volkswagen and was based on readily available parts from the VW parts bin. Thankfully, however, VW backed out at the last minute and Porsche were able to take over. Built at VW's Audi plant in Neckarsulm, the 924 was originally available with a 2-litre, 4-cylinder, single overhead cam engine producing 125 brake horsepower. In typical Porsche fashion though, this was quickly upgraded to give performance more in line with the company's reputation. Improvements were also made to the suspension, brakes and transmission, laying the VW Ghost to rest and making the Porsche as pure as any other. A direct descendant of the 924 and 928, the 944 was powered by literally half an 8-cylinder engine from the 928. Even so, the 4-cylinder, 2.5-litre capacity was large by contemporary standards and meant the 944 had performance in abundance. The 944 was launched in 1981 at the Frankfurt Motor Show, and by 1985 Porsche had introduced the 944 Turbo. Power was up from the 160 brake to 217 brake horsepower, and suspension and braking modifications were also made. In keeping with Porsche's growing reputation for safety, the 944 Turbo was the first sports car to be available with driver and passenger airbags. In 1987, Porsche upgraded the standard 944 to 190 horsepower and called it the S. However, the 944 of choice wasn't to come until 1990. The S2 was an extensive revision of the 944, with bodywork from the 944 Turbo. The interior was revised with more equipment and better quality materials, and on the whole looked more finished than the original car. The choice of engines was changed too, the 3 previous choices being replaced with the 3-litre 16-valve and the 2.5-litre turbo. Now, ability and performance aren't always reflected, of course, in the price. Sure, your Boxsters, your 911s, they're desirable, but they're expensive. There are a whole range of other Porsches out there, like this 944, that offer bags, nay sackfuls of performance for a lot fewer bucks. So, it might be boxy, it might be 80s, it might be red, but it's got the right badge. Here's Ian with a few tips.
The Porsche 944 is the bargain of the used Porsche stable. Impressive performance from a 944S like this one could be yours for just a few grand. We found a 1985 944 with 40,000 miles on the clock for £6,000 through a reputable dealer. You could pay less, from around £2,500 if you bought privately. But be careful what you buy. Generally speaking, 944s are strong, but the S model had trouble with weak cylinder heads and gearbox bearings. If these go on your car, you'll be looking at a few £1,000s to fix it.
My car's a 944S. It's made in 1987. It's a 2.5-litre 16-valve, developing over 190 horsepower.
If your budget will stretch, go for a later S2. Increased performance and a little extra desirability will cost you between £12,000 and £13,000.
I like the shape of the 944, and it's not such a tough car to take on as a 911, maintenance-wise.
Again, servicing costs are reasonable. Registered dealers will charge you £140 for a 6,000-mile service and £230 at 12,000 miles. The 944 is probably not many people's first choice of a Porsche, but this means great cars can be bought for average prices. So shop around and find a bargain.
With Porsche using the 911 as the basis for other cars, it was important to ensure that the 911 itself stayed ahead of the competition. So in 1988, they launched the new Carrera 4 with 4-wheel drive and 250 brake horsepower. The new car was an evolution rather than a revolution, but showed Porsche's desire to be at the forefront of sports car production. Now, the 911 was a hugely important car for Porsche, not just because of its popularity and longevity, but because it was the basis for so many other cars. Like the 930 and the 935 turbos that we saw earlier, the 959 also used the 911 for its platform. Only this time it had a 2.8-litre 4 valves per cylinder engine that had water-cooled heads. It had one of the first electronically adjustable suspension systems and 4-wheel drive. It produced an astonishing 450 brake horsepower. It was truly staggering when it was launched in 1985, and today it's still awe-inspiring, and it's still one of the stars of the show. Now look at this car. It's a car that I dreamed of. You should have done. If you didn't, there's something wrong with you. It is, quite simply, the most famous car on the planet. My dad knows nothing about cars, and even he would know that this was a 911. But it's not just a car for landed gentry, pop stars and footballers, because these cars were made throughout the 90s, into the 80s and even the 70s, and as such they're surprisingly affordable. So here's Ian with some tips on how you can live the Porsche dream.
The Porsche 911 is a great car, a true classic sports car that, as Brendan says, is recognised by just about everybody. Available since 1964, early cars offer impressive performance and wishlist desirability, but finding a good one for reasonable money can be tricky. You'll pay $20,000 and upwards for a nice, very early car, which is steep considering what 20 grand will get you on a later car. The pick of the range for the first-time buyer would be a late 80s Carrera. We found a 1989 Carrera with 50,000 miles for 20 grand. This would be a great introduction to Porsche ownership, as the Carrera offers strong performance with solid build quality. Some of the more highly powered cars of this era can be problematic, so buy carefully.
This particular model I've got now is a wide-bodied Carrera 2 Cabaret, and it's a special edition, and it's a wonderful car to drive. It's been down to the south of France with me, and even as far as the Balearic Islands in Mallorca.
One thing to look out for is weak gearboxes on pre-87 cars. On your test drive, accelerate hard, and if you hear a barking noise, walk away. This means the linkages are weak, and a gearbox rebuild will cost you the thick end of £1,500. On the whole, though, servicing costs are reasonable. You'll pay £40 for a set of brake pads, and tyres are from £100 per corner. Expect to pay £180 for a 6,000 mile service and around £300 at 12,000 miles.
Most of the people, such as, say, specialist cars, for instance, they'll have a fixed price service menu, so you know in advance before you go in for your annual 12,000 mile or your 6,000 mile service what the cost is going to be. And if there's any additional things that crop up during the course of that service, that's explained to you. But they're not expensive cars to run.
Generally speaking, 911s are solid everyday workhorse sports cars. Buy sensibly and you'll get a belter.
Thanks very much, Ian, the fountain of all knowledge, as usual. Sorry about that. With puns that bad, you're probably relieved that we're coming to the end of part 1 of Dream Deals, but don't go away, because in part 2, after walking and talking around so many fabulous Porsches, I at last get to drive one. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Dream Deals for our special Porsche programme from Castle Howard here in Yorkshire, where thousands of Porsche lovers have congregated. Now, during the break we have been literally inundated with 3 phone calls. Apparently there's some controversy over the way I'm saying Porsche. Some of you think it should be Porsche. Well, ich bin eine Mancunian, and round our way it's Porsche. Got a problem? Let's continue with our history of Porsche. There can be few things more seductive than a 2-seater sports car, especially one made by Porsche. So Porsche were onto a bit of a winner from the start with the Boxster. The fact that it's a great car just helps matters. Originally launched at the 1996 Paris Motor Show, 3 years after Porsche teased us with a concept roadster, the car was powered by a 2.4 litre flat-six engine giving 204 brake horsepower. This was enough to power the car to 60 in around 7 seconds, but Porsche soon realised that the Boxster had such a great chassis that more power could easily be coped with. So the car received a power lift, engine capacity went up to 2.6 litres and brake horsepower raised accordingly to 228 horsepower. The Boxster S is the car to really fulfil your open-top sports car fantasies though. A 3.2 flat-six quad overhead cam engine giving 260 brake horsepower is a tempting offer, and when mated to the Boxster's sublime chassis, you'd have to have a cold heart not to be won over. Some have criticised the car's looks, saying that in profile you can't tell whether it's going forwards or backwards, and that the car is just a bit bland. In my humble opinion though, there's a difference between blandness and subtlety, and those that can't see it don't deserve one anyway, which leaves more for me. Oh, good. Right. Play with me. I want to do some of that thought control, mind control kind of games where we both concentrate and we try and think of the same car. Okay, I'm going to picture a car, one of the most famous cars in the world. Close your eyes and try and imagine it. Think everyday, user-friendly supercar. Keep your eyes closed. One of the world's longest running sports cars. Okay, open your eyes. Was it this? there's obviously a problem. Close your eyes again and concentrate. Think of those things. Was it this? If it wasn't, it should have been. That's what I was after. It is, of course, a Porsche 911 Turbo. The programme is about Porsches after all, so you have had a clue or nine. Probably the most famous car in the world. Just saying those words, 911 Turbo, makes me go a bit funny inside. This old dog learns new tricks all the time. While the 911 label has been affixed to various Porsche cars since 1964, they have been diligently updating their flagship sports car so that it stays firmly in its place as a performance icon. Considered by many to be the ultimate road-going supercar, this car has the incredible winning combination of fame, style, performance, looks. It's got it all. Now, if you're expecting a subjective analysis of this car, then you can forget it, because cars don't get much better than this. I'm going to tell you why. The new shape is more slippery than the old one, although it's instantly recognisable as a 911. The main criticism that accompanied the introduction of the 996 is that it looked way too much like the much less expensive Boxster when viewed head-on. The Turbo was the only model to have a slightly different headlight shape to differentiate it, but for 2002, the Turbo look has been adopted across the 996 lineup. Stunningly beautiful yet aggressive air intakes around the front grille, along with here on the rear wheel arches and round at the back, along with the ubiquitous uncouth spoiler, mark this car out as the creme de la creme of 911s, the Turbo. To that end, everything is where it should be. The 8,000 revs per minute tachometer is mounted front and centre in the instrument panel. No white dials, no fancy electronics or lighting. You see, it doesn't matter, it just has a job to do. And the gear lever is one of the most sensuous things ever handled. If you're thinking I need to get a life, well, you're not sitting where I am. Inside here, Porsche enthusiasts will be delighted to learn that everything is as it should be. In a day when other European car manufacturers take painstaking measures to create style and comfort, in here everything is driver orientated, as it always has been with the 911. Form, materials, build quality, craftsmanship is of the highest standard, but it's still just all about the driver. But there's only one way to prove that to you, and that's to take the 911 out. When the 911 996 was launched, traditional pipe-smoking, slipper-wearing Porsche enthusiasts were incandescent with rage that the car was no longer air-cooled and that they'd gone for a more environmentally friendly and traditional water cooling system. Granted, the car did lose some of its growl, but that's like saying Kylie's dyed her hair. As for performance, well, it's difficult to know where to begin. Some things are the same. It's got the familiar inline six, as well as the traditional 3.6 litre capacity. But this car generates, wait for it, 420 brake horsepower. Enough to rocket the car, and I mean rocket the car, from 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds and on up to 190 miles per hour. There you have it, the ultimate 190 mile an hour supercar that's fit enough for nipping to the spa for a pint of milk. Now, there's two things I forgot to mention. The first thing is price. I'm not going to tell you, just dream about the car. Suffice to say, strictly for the super rich and the super lucky. That was all a bit glowing. I've just remembered the other thing I wanted to say, and it's negative. Have you seen this red leather? It is horrible. Still, I'll take the car. So then, Porsche, a company with a long and illustrious history of making fast, exotic, desirable sports cars. And not much else, really. There's no point when you're one of the world's favourite manufacturers. But now then, what's this? It looks like somebody at Porsche is a bit of a risk taker. I know, let's make something really big and ugly, put a whacking great big engine in it and a Porsche badge on the front and see if it sells. The result is this, the Cayenne, and in particular the Cayenne Turbo. Now, when I said big, I wasn't exaggerating. It weighs 2.4 tonnes. Thankfully, they remembered to put a thumping great big engine in there too, a 4.5 litre twin-turboed V8 to be precise, developing truly Herculean amounts of torque. £457 per foot at just over tick over is enough to power the Cayenne to 60 in 5.6 seconds and keep going through the 6-speed Tiptronic gearbox all the way to 165 miles per hour. All this in a Porsche that can tow a horsebox through a field. The big problem with the Cayenne is why. If you want something big that can go off-road, buy a Range Rover. If you want something big and fast, buy an Audi RS6. If you want something big and ugly, buy a Volvo. And if you want something big and prestigious, buy a BMW X5. Now, to dismiss it as ugly is to maybe do it a disservice. It's clearly a Porsche from the front and it will gain admirers. You could argue that Porsche haven't got 30 years of off-road heritage to draw upon, like the designers of the new Range Rover, but BMW did a pretty good job with their first effort, the X5, so that's no excuse. What you do get with the Cayenne is toys and plenty of them. Of course you get electric everything and climate control, but you also get a nice Tiptronic auto box, adjustable air suspension that drops the ride height at various speeds, and a fit and finish that feels like a proper Porsche. Having said that, you are paying 68 grand for this car, which is a full 14,000 more than an X5 4.6 IS and nearly 10,000 more than a Range Rover Vogue, so you'd expect some luxuries. Porsche promised that the Cayenne offers a seductive combination of world-beating performance, thrilling handling and family-swallowing practicality that will ensure it sells. If all that's true, they've got a point. If not, that risk-taker I mentioned earlier will be living a bit more safely in future. Well, that's all we've got time for this week on Dream Deals. That's all of your portion of Porsche in the Park from Castle Howard in Yorkshire. But join us at the same time next week when we will be giving another motoring marks out of 10. We'll see you then.